All right, today we are tackling a pretty huge claim: how to build systems that literally never fail. We're going to dive deep into the philosophy behind some of the most rock-solid software on the entire planet, all by looking at it through the lens of one incredible book. So, how is that even possible? Let's get into it.
I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. Apps like WhatsApp or these massive telecom networks, they're handling an insane amount of traffic every single second of every day. So how do they pull it off without just falling over all the time? It's a massive engineering problem, and the answer is probably not what you're thinking. And this is where it all starts to make sense. This book, Elixir in Action, isn't just a manual for a programming language. Nope. It's about a fundamentally different way of thinking about how you build software that's meant to last. So to really get the solution, you gotta go back and understand the original problem they were trying to solve. And it wasn't just about, writing some code. It was a full-on quest for almost perfect reliability. This question, right from the book's foreword, is basically the key that unlocks this whole thing. See, every truly great piece of technology starts by trying to solve a really specific, really difficult problem. So, what was the problem here? The problem was this: how on earth do you build things like the telephone switches that connect all our calls or the core backbone of the internet? We're talking about systems that simply cannot go down, ever. Failure just isn't an option when millions of people are relying on you. That is a completely different ballgame. And the first answer to that problem was a language called Erlang. And it wasn't created in some university lab. It was born out of pure absolute necessity in one of the most demanding industries in the world. Now, here's where it gets really cool. The core idea they focused on was something called fault tolerance. This isn't about trying to prevent every single failure, because let's be real, it's impossible. It's about accepting that failures are going to happen and then designing your system so it can handle them gracefully and just keep on running. So Erlang was created at Ericsson specifically to power their telephone networks. Its entire DNA was built around high availability and something called concurrency, which is just a fancy way of saying it can do thousands, even millions of things all at the same time. It was purpose-built for the huge server systems that really power our modern world. Okay, so if Erlang was this super powerful industrial strength solution, where does Elixir come in? Well, Elixir was born to solve a totally different, more human problem. How do you make all that incredible power easy for people to actually use? And this just lays it out perfectly. Erlang cracked the really hard technical problem of reliability. But Elixir, which was created by José Valum, came along and solved the adoption problem. The whole goal was to take all that amazing power and philosophy and wrap it up in a way that more developers could get their hands on it. So you can think of Elixir as this friendly gateway. It gives you, the developer, a modern toolset and a syntax that feels a lot more familiar, but underneath the hood, you get all the battle-tested, fault-tolerant horsepower of the Erlang virtual machine. It's truly the best of both worlds. Okay, so how do you actually learn to think and build software this way? Well, the book lays out this really clear blueprint that takes you from writing your first line of code all the way to building a complete, resilient system. The whole journey is broken down into 3 logical parts. First, you get the fundamentals of functional programming. Then, you dive into the real heart of it all, concurrency, which is the secret sauce for handling tons of tasks at once. And finally, you learn how to put it all together to build something that's ready for the real world. It's a super smart progression. And all of this leads us to maybe the most famous and probably the most misunderstood idea in this whole world. It's a philosophy that completely turns traditional software design on its head. In most programming, we spend countless hours, right, trying to predict every little thing that could go wrong. We build all these defenses, trying to stop our code from ever breaking. But the Elixir and Erlang way of thinking, it's totally different. It just assumes things will go wrong. The goal isn't to prevent failure, it's to build a system that can survive it. This is the mantra: let it crash. Now, hold on, it's not about being careless or lazy. What it really means is that you build your system out of all these tiny, independent pieces. If one of those little pieces fails, if it crashes, a special overseer called a supervisor is there to instantly restart it in a perfectly clean state. It's like having a manager on a factory floor who, the second a machine breaks, just swaps in a new one without ever stopping the main assembly line. The whole system just heals itself. And look, this isn't just some neat idea on a whiteboard.
This philosophy has a massive impact in the real world. Developers who really embrace this find they can build way more robust applications. And there's one quote from the book that just nails this point. I mean, listen to that. Ashad Dean says that in just a few weeks, he went from knowing almost nothing about Elixir to building a production system that was both highly scalable and resilient. That's the kind of power we're talking about when you have the right philosophy and a great guide to show you the way. So I'll just leave you with this one last thought. Forget about trying to build a perfect system that never ever fails. Instead, just ask yourself this: what amazing, complex, ambitious things could you build if you knew from the very beginning that your systems were designed to heal themselves?